All right, Gus, welcome to the Di-scussions podcast. How you doing?
Yes, thanks for having me, Diane. I'm good actually. I'm really good. Thanks. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm loving your T-shirt. Tell me, it has. Did you see it on the runway in New York recently? I mean, tell me more about it.
Yeah, I got this really cool girl that came down to Portugal the other day, and I had a really amazing time with her, talking about all things fitness and having a nice coffee in my favorite coffee shop. And then she gifted it me. So I thought it would be perfect to wear it today. So
Oh, it looks so
growth
good on
mindset.
you. And of
Thanks for
course,
the
I mean,
gift. I love it.
Uh, you're welcome. And before we get into your whole amazing background and deep dive, I want to talk about your hair because it looks amazing all the
Thank
time.
you.
What's your hair care routine?
Okay, so yeah, actually, I just gone through it a good 40 minutes. It's the classic shampoo, two shampoos, just to make sure it's because we train a lot, right? So one
Yes,
shampoo round isn't enough. So
correct.
we need to do two shampoo rounds, and then I do conditioner, and sometimes a mask first, and then the conditioner, and then but the important bit is the after. So I need to brush it and do the nods, and then I do this leave-in. I have this leave-in that helps with the curls and keep it because it's quite wild. My hair is quite wild. So just to keep it calm and content, I need to use these leave-in, and I do have like a strategy where whenever it's nearly dry, I just tied it up like low
Hmm.
and just let it finish dry like low, just again just to keep it nice and low because it can go really wild, especially
I'm
now in the summer on the
mhm.
beach, and the salty water, the sun, and everything. So yeah, that's it.
I I love it. I'm gonna be implementing their hair care routine starting tomorrow, like legit. And I love that your hair actually matches your personality. You know, big hair, big personality, great vibes. And we really met on stage for Sky Hill USA, and you were the
Yes.
hype man. And I saw you in action, and I thought this guy just gives out so many good vibes.
Oh, thank you, Dan. I think that was when you met Coach Gus. I do have this character. Myself, Gustavo, I'm not always as energetic and as smiley and as hype as Coach Gus is. But I think that's something that probably going to talk about in our careers, in everything we do. I think whatever it is that we do, if we're professionals, if we really want to do it well, there is no space for sadness. There is no space for stress or anything. Like whenever we need to deliver the best, in whatever we do in life, I think we really need to do it professionally and embrace it. And Coach Gus is this character, the hair, the mustache, and the everything. I am 90% of the time like that in general.
Mm.
So it's not like a sacrifice for me to act uh, Coach Gus, this character, but. But yeah, I love actually there is where I can be whatever I want to be. I think when I'm on stage, let's say that way, like I don't fear what people are gonna judge me. And so in life sometimes people will judge you and you don't want that to happen because of your career and so on. But when I'm on stage, I'm comfortable, and
Mm.
I don't care what people are gonna judge me. I just wanna make sure they have a good time, and I have a good time as well. And yeah, that was it. That's when we met.
I
That
love
was
it.
great.
And you can tell that it's authentic. Like you can tell that it's you. And I love that you're touching on the fact that it's not always you. You know, that's 90% you, but there are times where, you're different. We're all the same. And of course, your whole life, and I got to know more about you during our coffee in Portugal when we sat down. You've been in sports your entire life, and you started as a football player, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
why don't you tell us about that and how you went into then studying sports as well, and then going into being a coach?
Yes. Sports has always been part of my life, and so my parents they were divorced when I was very young, And my mom, she's a boss. She's always been my pillar in that sense, my anchor, and she always been not necessarily a very sporty person, but she always loved it, and she always tried to do stuff and play and get involved. She's a very confident woman. There's nothing that she can't do in her head, and she bosses it out every time. So I remember my first memories used to be to obviously playing with cousins and so on. We had a big family, but to see my mom playing actually with her friends. So like on Wednesdays, she would go at night after work. She would pick me up at my grandma and take me to football with her. And then she would let me play for a little bit, like all the other kids, like the other women, like the other girls, kids, and uh, and I used to love it. And then I decided I wanted to play, and then she used to take me to football classes, and that evolved into something more serious, right? When you have tournaments and the coach is picking you up every time, and you're playing both halves, and that really became something that I thought I was gonna do for the rest of my life, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed, and it's funny because my fitness career evolved from it because I also used to enjoy not just the playing side of it, but also the training side of it. Saying saying like when you put in the work outside the pitch and all the training and the progressions, and then you really see your progression in your results, like on pitch, like in the game. And I used to enjoy it. The other kids wouldn't enjoy as much, like the laps around the pitch, like the zigzag, the plyometrics, the proprioception, all the boring stuff. I used to love it. And so as I got older, like 10, 12, I wasn't the biggest one, but I was pretty strong. Um, and that used to give me a lot of confidence that the size didn't give me, because I wasn't really tall. I'm not a tall person. Um, so I used to love the training as well, and the community side of it, being with the gang, the playing, the adrenaline kicking, like it used to be so nice. But like you said, like I had some football can be quite frustrating, especially for young kids, because it's not always the good kids that get picked. Like it's not always fair in sports. And I experienced that very early, and agents and going on to competitions and seeing all the dirty side of competitions, what happens behind the scenes that no one knows. And as a player, you hear, you see, and that put me off a little bit. And the fact that maybe I come from a very small town in Brazil, very small, like a village. It was like 4 or 5 thousand inhabitants, close to the capital, but very small. So I didn't have the resources, like I start playing in a small team. I did get selected to the state level team, but that would be like once a year we would get together to play tournaments, but that was it. So I didn't have access to all the resources that football could give me, and my family wouldn't really take me to places. And so I just saw that that wasn't going to be a thing. And then I just realized, because I really enjoyed the training side of it, the performance side of it, I thought, you know what, I can own it myself, and I can study, and then I can specialize, and then I can come back and then work with football, but not directly playing it. And then I don't rely on the agents and people, like all these stuff that goes around sports. I could own my future. So I remember when I was like 14, having that frustration coming from my first and only international competition in South America. And I was so disappointed with everything. I was like, you know what? F it. I'm gonna just study and I'm gonna just, come back and work with it, but I'm gonna own my own future. But then football still like paid for my studies. I got then from their scholarships, and then I finished high school, and then uni, played for uni, which was amazing. Going around Brazil playing like university, which at that age, it's a lot more than the football that was going on there, which I loved every second of it. But then going from that, I wanted to do to take finish the sports science uni. I got my degree, and then I wanted to do masters in physiology. But then, so I wanted to be like a physiologist, which is above the trainer, the guy that actually get the trainers to play. I didn't want to be the one just on the field, you know, like getting everyone to do stuff. I wanted to be more than that. I wanted really to think through the whole season, the whole macro cycle, and so on. I always loved the science behind periodization, especially through uni, really going into it. And then for me to do that, I would have to speak English because a lot of the course would have to be in English, a lot of the modules, and I couldn't speak English. So I thought as soon as I finish uni, I would then go to the US because I have family there, a big family around Boston area in Massachusetts, and easy. I will live with them, you know, I'll save money, I'll study, and then US as well is massive in sports, so many sports I can probably get an opportunity there. But then I couldn't get the visa, and then I had a friend, a client back then. I used to work already in a gym, so I was already an instructor in the gym on the gym floor, and like I'm doing like trainee into group classes as well. You know, the spinning, the body pump, body jump, all the insanity, all that back in the days, like in the 2009, 8-ish was popping. Uh, so I was gonna do. I was doing that. So I was doing like kind of like PT, like instructing on the gym floor. And then I had a client that said, bro, why would you go to the US? Go to London. It's the center of the world. That's where everything happens. You have the whole Europe to travel. You're gonna have so much more fun. And you don't need a visa. I said, excuse me, what did you say last? For, forget
Word.
all the rest. What was that last bit? No, you don't need to. Well, you need to, but it's a very easy one. You just sign up to a school and you get it. And then I did that. Then I signed up to a school in London. I got a year-long visa, which I could renew for another year. And so I did. So I went to London without knowing anyone. I have never been on a plane before, so it was the first time outside the country, flying on a plane, going to a place where I didn't know anyone. I didn't speak the language. All I had was in my head enough money to live for 3 months, and then I was gonna sort it out when I
Yep.
was finished. And yeah, and you being to London, well, I know you're born in Portugal, right?
I was
Or you're
born
born
in
in London?
Paris, but grew up in London. I was there for
Yes,
16 years. Yes.
yes, exactly, yes. So you know exactly what London is like, and for someone that goes from or comes from these like village in the center of Brazil, never seen a foreigner before in life, you know, like to then just land in the heart of the world, the modern world. My head was exploding. It was so much information, was so much going on, and obviously that money that I had for 3 months, it only lasted barely a month because I was
Yeah.
doing just everything I could.
Welcome to London.
You're welcome to London, baby. Let's
Yeah.
go. So, and that taught me a lot because then I didn't want to reach out to my mom and ask for more money. So that really forced me to really find my way around. And then going from, you know, like all the sub jobs, like cleaning toilets, picking up broken glasses in nightclubs, to working in festivals during summer, to then finally getting to work in a gym, you know, literally walking into a gym, not even speaking the language and like just decorating like some lines like, hi, my name is Gustavo. I have a degree in sports science. I'm a PT. Can I work as a cleaner here? So at least I can learn, you know, like from people working. And then the guy, bro, I can't understand you. We need PT. So let's go for it. Let's work on the floor. And literally I threw myself into it, and that was the best thing I ever did. And back then I had already a friend doing the masters himself in physiology, and he said, Gustav, you know what, you're so good with people, you're so good on the floor, on the gym floor, you know, like this academic life, you know, like university and study and masters and so on, it's very boring. You can do it anytime, whenever you're retired, whenever you're old. Right now fitness is booming. Just stick to it, do what you do well. You can always come back and do this whenever you're tired of the gym floor. But and then I kind of like listened to him, and back then I was a good PT. I was really good at what I did, and I was already working with some athletes back in Brazil, and it's funny because in the US as well, and Europe, most countries, you don't really need to do like university. You don't need to go to the university to work with fitness. You literally just do like a course that sometimes take like a month, and you have a you can work, right? So even though that is really nice to give people the opportunity to follow a career and give them the key to open up many doors into their career, that also puts a lot of people unprepared in the market. And that was a tool that I had on me, because just like in Brazil, that's what they used to say, like a doctor, needs to study for like 6, 7, 8 years, and they still need to take tests and be part of associations and so on to be a doctor, and how to work in fitness, to work with people's health and mental health as well. You can't
Yes.
really just do like a month worth of course. You barely know the basics of anatomy. You barely know nothing in physiology, and the psychology behind training, and you can really change people's life for good or bad, right? You can give them like a hernia that they'll have for the rest of their lives. They'll never be able to sleep properly again, probably with the back pain, and that could be your fault, as well as you could change it for good as well. So I had that on me. Like, even though I couldn't speak their language, but I knew that I was a good PT. I knew that I had the capability to do well, and that always protected me in my head. Like, I would never, you always face racism, and especially when you can barely, communicate. But that was never really a barrier for me. And yeah, so like within maybe 6 months working in the gym, getting help from Italian friends, some Brazilian guys in the gym, and loads of all the clients that I had would teach me a lot. Within 6 months, literally, I was already fluent. And going to school, because I had to go to school in the morning to for my visa. 6 months, I was already pretty fluent. I could literally communicate with anyone, anytime, and yeah, so that was really nice. That was really interesting, the way how it happened, and because I had the pressure that I actually had to survive on my own,
Mm.
that really made me learn much faster. It was painful, trust
Yes,
me. The
I'm
frustration is
sure.
real, but that was that was a lifetime. That was like what I lived in those 2 years was literally. Then I renewed for another year, stayed another year, and I feel like it was a lifetime, everything I lived. Then I worked in nightclubs again, but now as like a waiter manager, in VIP areas and meeting footballers and celebrities, and oh my God, it was crazy. London can be very particular in terms of like experiences.
Yeah.
Um, and then I got into CrossFit when, like, towards the end of those 2 years in London. That was when guys, because I used to do these more functional training for performance, people used to come like, "Is it CrossFit? I wanna train CrossFit. Is it CrossFit?" And I was like, "Yeah, that is CrossFit." I needed a client, right? And then I would go on YouTube, like, "What is CrossFit?" Like, and I think that's how everyone started back in the days, really. And then I started to get more people coming after me for CrossFit training, and then I went to CrossFit Central London, which now a really close friend of mine owns it. Actually, they sold it. But it was one of the first CrossFit gyms in London. And then they used to do these introduction courses. That was a version of like a level 1 version, teaching all the 9 basic movements and the basics of everything. And then I took this introduction course there, and then I start like introducing CrossFit into my bodybuilding training, functional performance based training, and that was me into CrossFit. Then I promise it's very close to the end of it.
Yeah.
My background.
Well, the thing is,
Two
you've
more minutes.
done
I'll
so
wrap it
much.
up. It's
No,
so
I
much.
you've done so much, right? And we haven't even gotten to like the peak of CrossFit in your
All
life,
right.
which is just so interesting. But I love stories like yours where someone, from a small town figures out their life and creates opportunities all through also immigrating. And my dad comes from a very small village in Lebanon, and he had to work his way
Amazing.
to studying, etc., building a family in France when his dream was to actually go to the US, but he didn't have enough money. So his dream was to send his kids to the US, which is why all three of us went to the US. But I love stories of hard work of immigrants who also saw a better life that they could create for themselves and seizing opportunities. Whether, you probably thought that you were better than most of the things that you were doing in the beginning of your career. You probably had a bigger vision for yourself, but still you went through the steps, building, building, building. And I think that takes a lot of grit. It builds character. And like you said, it's hard. It's really hard. And it's probably what made you who you are today. And of
For
course, you
sure.
were going to get into CrossFit. So now at this point, after Googling what is CrossFit, a few years later, I'm guessing it took you maybe a few years, you're then known in the CrossFit space, which also brings you to WIT. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Of course, yeah, of course. And just to wrap up what you just said there, and as every time I get the opportunity to tell this story, I always embrace it, and I love to tell it, not to brag about myself and what I have achieved, but more as like there's nothing that people can't achieve if they put that as a goal. And just there'll be good days, there'll be bad days, but like just aim for the end goal and keep going. And yeah, that's that when I was talking about like Miami and when I'm on the stage and I don't really care about people's judgment if I'm saying a word like wrong or if I tripping over like a word or whatever, like for my English or anything, because just for me to have the mic on one of the main stages of one of the biggest sports or the biggest fitness sports in the world, doesn't matter what I say, like just for me to be there, to have that opportunity for me is massive. And I know it because I know where I come from and how painful it was to get there and how much I had to go through. So for me, it's a bonus, like to be there, whatever, like whatever comes after this is a bonus. But anyway, so my visa finished and then I had to get go back to Brazil. And that was when I went to Rio de Janeiro. I'm not from Rio, but then I went to Rio, opened a CrossFit gym with friends that came from Miami, and they learned everything they knew from Jason. I don't know if you know Jason Ribot, CrossFit Miami Beach, the
I,
legend.
that's hilarious. I was just with him yesterday because I go to two CrossFit gyms in Miami, one of them being Reebok CrossFit Miami Beach. And Jason is a friend of
He's
mine. That's
he is
so
the
funny.
biggest legend ever. Back in those days, people from around the world used to send coaches there for him to train them to be head coaches. He was a he is a legend and such a great guy, right? I love him. And my friends used to train there. Well, I wouldn't really know them. They were friends of a client. And then this client said, Gustavo, you into CrossFit? You're going back to Rio. I have these friends that are coming back from Miami to open a CrossFit gym, and I will connect you guys. And that was how I got to know Marquinhos and João, who used to train with Jason. And then I got to know obviously Jason through them. But anyway, we opened this CrossFit gym in Rio when CrossFit was popping. And like really long story short, we really start something different there with like a proper high-end customer service style, more boutique style CrossFit, and doing a lot on social media. And that got us to work with celebrities, going to TV shows and a lot of exposure. And that was when we got to be sponsored by Nike. We was the second ever gym to work with Nike. First was Invictus in California, and then us, and then obviously through that I got to know Matt Fraser, Sarah, Sigma daughter. That was when I still was in Brazil. I didn't even go to London wait or anything. I already got to know these guys, and there's a really funny story, and I want to say that. And every time I have the opportunity, I say that because I have beaten Matt Fraser in a workout once, actually.
No,
I
this
have.
is the exclusive. Wait. Question, was he injured? Was he sick? Was he jet lagged?
Where's the credit? Diane, I thought we were friends. Where's the credit? I was really fit. Excuse me. I was very fit. Okay, I was very fit back then.
What was the
Anyway,
workout? You gotta dive into this. Tell me, what was the
okay,
workout?
I will tell you. I'll tell you. So back then, so through all these, I used to compete, and I actually got to a pretty decent level. We I used to compete. Well, 2016 we qualified for teams regionals in South region, which is like Texas and that whole South region and the whole of Latin America. Um, Obviously not close to an individual level and so on. But I was pretty decent. And my thing, because I always had the football background, so all the conditioning pieces for me used to be always my strength, not the lifting and so on. And Matt Fraser, he was coming from the opposite. So his thing was the more complex movements and weightlifting, right? So he was still building into the conditioning. So it was a death by burpee and shuttle run.
Nah.
It was really my thing because um, I absolutely smashed Sarah. I told her that already, and she does remember that. Matt pretends that he doesn't remember it, but everyone does. But him, anyway, but, but yeah, so it was a death by burpee and shuttle run, and he stopped like 1 or 2 minutes before me. He pretended he got lost, and then he carried on, and then he lost it. Actually, I beat him twice in that work.
Of course.
In the next minute, he died again, and then I beat him again. But anyway, that year was the year that he won the games, and I think, I mean, I don't like to say it, but I think that's that experience that that he had when I literally beat him. I think that helped to motivate him to improve his conditioning
Obviously.
and then
You
obviously
were,
win the games.
yes.
We changed. We
Yes.
changed his. It was interesting. It was very interesting. But anyway, so
The first year he won, isn't that the year that he won a sprint or something? Because running was like his Achilles heel. Was it that year? Maybe if it was that year, maybe you were in fact the catalyst because he was like, oh, I can't, I need to work on my running. So maybe you
actually,
were.
but talking about it, because back then, remember when he used to be like just like on ice creams, eating anything, he wouldn't pay attention to his diet and so on. And I remember like the one thing that we had back in our gym, and I can show you pictures afterwards, we had a really solid squad there, and everyone like looked good, like because you always like in Rio, it's like in Miami, you want to be in the best shape ever all the time, right? And in Rio, like you're either cooking inside or grilling outside. It's super hot, and special open prep time when it was around the time when they came, like early in the year, really hot. And that was anyway, like really like open style workouts. We were like super lean, like all the boys. And he used to be like, oh my God, you guys must be in so much gear. You guys look so good and blah blah blah. But we just used to have a really good diet and train really hard and sweat a lot. So we used to be like all the zone diets and proper when CrossFit had all the zone diets and so on, paleo style training. And he was coming from the opposite, like just ice cream, rice, just like performance, fuck the rest. I just want to, perform well. And he once he did say like that time, that visit to Brazil really helped me like want to look better and watch my diet. And then through
Mm.
that trip, not just Brazil, like through that whole trip and all the experience that he had and leading into the games that year, that was when he started switching. So I would say that as well, by the way.
He
Just
needs to
just leave it
thank
there.
you
I
publicly,
think
pay
I'm
you
I'm actually
something.
quite I'm actually quite upset that he never really mentions it anywhere. But anyway, let's not talk about it. It's not about it's not about me. Or it is about me, but not about him. Um, so
So
no, yeah.
which?
So
How did we
then
get to which?
yes, then I went. Then I decided that that was it. Like we had done well, but I had the ceiling. I hit the ceiling in Rio, and then I want to go back to London. I always missed living in London again, and yeah, so I went to London with this project to open my own gym, and that gym, knowing how London was, like all the CrossFit gyms there was really like old school style, the arches, quite dirty, rusty barbells, and so on. And I knew that there was a market there, like in the city of London, central London, for people that have money to pay and they like to have a better service. There was no service for them, so I wanted to create a CrossFit gym that had that to offer that. And so when I went to London, I spent like about a year and a half trying to find a location to open my gym that was going to be called Downtown Fit. And through that time, my strategy was, I have this saying with me, which is if you're not seen, you're not remembered. So I had to be seen. I had to get into the community. So all I used to do, I used to visit every single gym, train with everyone. And back then I was competing at quite high level in Brazil. So I was pretty fit. And, like I was taking part in all the competitions, like literally I was everywhere. And Wit saw me, and they were like quite small back then, but growing very fast and already owning loads of like cool collaborations with brands and running loads of events. And then they they knew I was a coach as well, so they start to invite me to do photo shoots to help them with events, and then through that they got to know, I got to tell them about my project, what I was trying to do, and so on. And then maybe 6 months down the line, they said, "Hey, like we have this location um, in St. Paul's, which we want to open a gym, or we want to open a shop. We want to do it like a full experience." Remember Fifth Avenue when it used to be in New York, the gym, the Reebok shop, and then the gym downstairs. So
Yeah.
they wanted to do that, but better, because the shop and the gym wasn't owned by the same people. It was just happened to be, it was convenient for both, but there was not one full experience owned by the same brand and so on. Uh, so we wanted to do that where we could offer the full experience. And they said, like, we have the space to open a gym, or we have no idea how to run a gym. And what you want to do is pretty much what we want to do. A bit more of an experience gym, like a high-end experience, and like a boutique style CrossFit gym. And and then they said, like, would you know be keen to join us? And the only problem is it cannot be called Time Fit, it has to be called WIT. And then I said, fuck yeah, let's do it. I just want to open a gym. I just want to show people that I can do it, and show them, like, I miss coaching, I miss having my community, my own community. And yeah, that was when I joined WIT in 2017. Yes, 2017, like around August was when I signed the contract to build up to open the gym in January. So we had like about like 6 months ish, five, six
Okay.
months to open the gym. And then yeah, and then in 2018, in January, like early Jan, right after the New Year's Eve, we opened the gym, and it was that boom crazy, because we had literally that 1 month, that January, we had like a Metcon launch, official launch with Nike. After that, we have an official launch with Nano, whatever, 7 or 8, with 6 or 7 with Reebok. And again, like for those events, was like all the top athletes from Nike came. And then it was Josh Briggs, Matt Fraser, Carol Webb back then, Sarsis Madota. And then for the Reebok, it was like Dave Castro, like all the Reebok athletes came, and then Catherine back then. And then the week after was the painting limited edition Nobu launch with the frames that they painted, and then the shoes copying the frames. Uh, and then some dancer, Brooke Wells, all the gang, Nobu came as well. So literally within a month, we were exposed to the whole community in the world through all these events and through these athletes and so on. And yeah, and that was a really nice way to start. And I had like all my ideas for like what you needed to be done to be like a perfect gym, and to do really well as a gym. And I had a really good team of coaches that I met going around, train with different people. I selected really cool people, good people, right? Because in my opinion, is the most important thing
Yes.
to bring good people. I can always teach them, how to be a good coach and how to coach these or that plan programs, but I can't teach someone how to be a good person, right? How to be nice to
Agreed.
people, how to, and yeah, I think that was the secret. We had a really good team, and we moved well, and we loved what we did, and we wanted to set a benchmark in London, and I think that was the secret for, I think, the success back then in the WIC gym.
That's amazing. And I just remember I started CrossFit in 2019, and I remember just slowly seeing WIT pop up here and there. I even used them to order some stuff, I think even some nanos at one point. And that's also where I started seeing you. And I know that there's been an evolution in your career. You've been so heavily involved in CrossFit. And now more and more, even through your social media, you can see you're evolving with the way you're training personally. And then I know that in the world of fitness, there's a lot of talk of different training methodologies and hybrid training. And of course, Hyrox is so in right now, where you even see CrossFit athletes doing Hyrox races, like Sydney Wells, for example. She announced that she doesn't only want to do one, which she did already, but she wants to do another one as well. So I'm seeing an evolution in your training and your career as well. Is there a reason why there's been this evolution from CrossFit for you?
Yeah, I think there are like a series of factors that would be responsible for it. But I think the main one is like actually watching the market, the fitness market, and you can see the fitness market changes slightly or broaden up, like just wider. I think CrossFit did set the benchmark and they changed the way fitness was seen ever. It would never be the same after CrossFit. CrossFit brought fitness as a sport. You know, people that don't have a sport to follow or to play, they made fitness their own sport, and that is a remarkable thing that will never change. The thing is, people don't realize and people don't move on to the fact that CrossFit is a sport and CrossFit is also a training methodology. All right. Back then, when they came up, CrossFit as a methodology, as a sport, it is what it is, and it will always be the same, which in my opinion is not like a sport that's owned by someone and can change rules anytime or every time and based on someone. Is not really a very fair sport. But anyway, it's a sport and a professional one. People make a lot of money out of it. But as a training methodology, which is the one I truly believe and follow still, I think it's one of the best training methodologies. Not the only one, not the best one, because some people don't like, don't want to, and don't need to CrossFit, right? So me being a professional, a health promoter by degree and by love, for me is very hard for me to just, close my eyes like a horse like that, like to just like a tunnel view to only see CrossFit as the only way. I think that's very ignorant of me and of people that maybe do that, because yes, CrossFit is great, but it's not the only thing. And as great as it is. And I believe that now, with so many variations of strength and conditioning, which is equal hybrid training, which is equal CrossFit, Hyrox, everything comes from the same strength and conditioning background, which is everything hybrid. But it's hybrid in different ways, but it's all hybrid. Hybrid is something that's not only one, right? Which is strength and conditioning in general. So all these sports come from strength and conditioning. The strength bit will change based on specifics of the sport and the conditioning as well, inside the macrocycle periodization, prepping for a competition, but they are all strength and conditioning based. And as the fitness evolve as a sport, creating all these categories now, CrossFit becomes not the only functional fitness style of training or hybrid or strength and conditioning style of training. So people that now actually follow CrossFit is the people that actually want to CrossFit because they like the competition side of CrossFit and they like the testing side of CrossFit, the benchmarking and the community and the CrossFit, heavy kind of like mindset. But again, like it's a very small niche. And if you want to base your career, it was like when I changed from football, like, do I really want to put all my career, all my life, everything that I am, I do it. This is my career. I have a family to feed. How can I trust everything that I am and I've done and my family on a sport, on something that they don't even know really what they change every year. They're not quite sure. And, you never know who is what and so on. So I just brought it up a little bit, and evolving with fitness as well as a sport. I believe, like you said, Hyrox is coming up really heavily. And I have this theory for me, which is I see strength and conditioning being the C, right? And all these sports that just waves. So if I specialize and really focus on the giant, immense opportunities that is the strength and conditioning as a whole, I can always be able to surf every single wave that comes. And I own it. People like, do you even raise Hyrox? Babe, let me tell you something. I've studied for like that many years. I've been working for 17 years with strength and conditioning, worked with athletes, competed myself. Trust me, I don't need to race a Hyrox to know how to program and to prep you for Hyrox. But matter of fact, I did race. But anyway, like it's more the fact that I believe that brands and everyone that put all the eggs into that one basket, I think that's the mistake, because the fitness now it was a small niche as a sport, but now it's bigger. And I think everyone needs to see it as a whole. And like you said, my training now is moving because as much as I love training CrossFit, I don't need to snatch or to walk on my hands because that's not going to take me anywhere in my life if I'm not competing CrossFit. So why am I going to risk injuries? And I'm old now, so I need to warm up so long to do like a snatch session or to go heavy or the intensity that CrossFit needs me to go in order to give me the results. So I rather keep it simple. I still CrossFit, I still work out, but now in a much simpler way and mixing it up with some functional bodybuilding. I do way more conditioning now as well, which keeps me fit, which keeps me, healthy. And yeah, it's slightly different as well. So so it's personal and also professional. The reason why I have changed, basically.
I really like your imagery of the sea and the waves. I think in terms of business, that's very smart. Um, I had never thought of that imagery until you mentioned it, but in terms of with growth to mindset, the consulting firm, that's very much what I think as well with regards to fitness, and just strength and conditioning, wellness, health in general. I think it's a very smart way to see things. And also on a business side, we've seen a lot of, in any kind of industry, businesses, startups, brands grow like super fast, right? And sometimes that's actually the start of their demise because they cannot keep up with that growth. Hyrox right now is growing so fast. They just, I think it was yesterday, dropped the next year's race calendar, and I looked at
Crazy, right?
all of the
It's
cities.
so many.
It's insane. I think it's great. I don't care what sport you're doing, how you're competing, whether you're competing. If you're moving, you're healthy, or at least getting there. It's all that counts. But when I look at Hyrox, do you think they're growing too fast?
I think people again, I think CrossFit opened up a massive market when with the competitive side and having the fitness as a sport. However, CrossFit as an event, as a competition, can be very frustrating and limiting in the way how it's run. Like for you to get involved in a competition, basically you don't really know what the workouts are going to be. So if you have any weaknesses, that will create a lot of stress and frustration on you, and or maybe you go there, get stuck on something, or hurt yourself on something because you're not really prepared to do that, and that creates a lot of tension and frustration. And like the minimum will be like a day long, most of the time 2 days, and then bigger ones 3-4 days long. So even though people love the fact that they can use these events to test their fitness, have fun, engage with other people, engage with the community, with their friends, but a CrossFit competition used to be very limiting for people to access it because of all these things that I just said. And I think that was a big move from Hyrox. They understood that, and they not just made it accessible in a sense where they picked very basic movements that people can truly test their fitness in a way. Like there's no complexity that will slow you down. It's all about how hard can you push, you know, true test of fits in that sense with simplicity. And also they killed it by making always the same. So it's always going to be the same thing. 100 meters, 400 meters, all the track, all the Olympic sports, they are always the same. They have always been the same, and they'll always be the same. And they still the biggest sports. Why? Because people know exactly what they're training for. It's easy to track progression. It's easy to train. It's easy to avoid injuries because everything is more predictable in that sense. So they realize that as well, and that is also part of Hyrox. And the third and main element for me is about the experience. They know exactly what the experience they're gonna get. It's gonna be like people gonna average racing about hour 20 to hour 30. If you go there like an hour before to familiarize the word
Familiarize? Yes.
familiarize with
Yes.
with the venue, with the atmosphere, and with people. Then you warm up, then you race, then you hang out for another 30-40 minutes. Like within 3-4 hours, that's it. You're done. You have raced, you have a good time, you have connected with people, and you can go on. You can do your things. If you race in the morning, by noon, you're at home. You can look after kids now. like you know exactly what you train. You have been training for it. Now you have all these, which is a fourth thing which I didn't think, and now it just came up in my head. They give you all the data, so you have all the data now, so you know exactly what you need to improve and where you can improve, and you have all the data to work based on. And if you are, as a good coach, having all this data, I can work on a periodization on a program that it's like maths. There's absolutely no way that you can improve because it is maths. You give me
Mm.
this time, I know your age, I know your sex, I know the weights that you're going to be competing at. It's maths. It's very simple for me to help people training when I know exactly what they're going to do, what the environment's going to be. It's when it's quite more predictable. So
Mm.
you kill quite a few birds with one stone, and I think that was the secret for Hyrox success. And yes, they're growing very fast. There's a lot of partnerships and global deals going on, a lot of money going up. How they gonna carry on that fast growth, which was something that we were talking about in our coffee, right? Which was probably one of the wits mistake, and no bull, especially no bull mistake. When you're growing too fast, it's really hard for you to work on processes and a foundation because you have to react, right? Because you have to follow through the market and you have to give back what you take your money for. And, you know, like, so fast growth can hide a lot of problems. And I think they're partially trying to keep that fast growth and work on the foundation as they go. I don't think that they're doing the best they could. I think there could be better, but I think it's way better than what CrossFit had, you know, which the way, well, I think they learn a lot from CrossFit as well, and they use a lot CrossFit as a benchmark for
Mm.
them. So they're already working a lot on, you know, like level ones and you know, making the coaches and people that work with the sport now more professionals and helping them understand better the sports and and yeah, I think they will carry on growing fast for the next few years, and then I think it will settle. Maybe I don't think it will fall as quick CrossFit has fallen in the past few years. Uh, but yeah, it's a very exciting one. I think there's a lot
Mm.
happening, and like we were talking about just before, I'm just surfing that wave, and I'm doing the best I can to help everyone that I work with in that wave, and with them as well. I do get to work with them as an MC, and every time I'm there, I make sure I deliver the best experience, which is what I'm there for, and connect with as many people as I can. And they're
Yeah.
all very good people. Christian, you know, Douglas, everyone, Mo, which are the founders, and Eddie, everyone that is involved with Hyrox is a really young team and lively. They're very excited
Very
about it.
lively.
They're traveling the world with fitness. They're meeting a lot of people. Fuck, it's amazing. Just, you know, I wanted them to enjoy and have fun. If it's gonna fail or not, if it's gonna carry on growing or not, I hope it does carry on growing, and I hope they'll carry on working with them somehow. But it's just exciting to see another big sport like CrossFit did back in the days, and now I'm managing to do it very closely with them and being able to get involved much earlier than I did
Mm.
with CrossFit.
I agree. Hyrox, the team. I've spoken with Douglas many times. Very smart man, very lively. As you say, the team's full of just they're excited about this sport and they defend their sport very well. I think, you know, obviously playing devil's advocate, it's easier coming in after. So, you know, with CrossFit being, let's say, one of the first, you can argue, but let's just say they came before Hyrox, right? It's easy
Mm-hmm.
for Hyrox to look at CrossFit and see what they did wrong so that they can then do it right, right? So that's always one thing to take into account. But
For
I do
sure.
want to play devil's advocate on some of the points that you mentioned. It's not that I agree or disagree. It's just, for example, on how repetitive something can be. You said by it being repetitive, it's actually probably better in terms of risk of injury and avoiding that risk. You can argue looking at running, it's so repetitive that in fact it becomes bad for the body. You look at runners' joints, etc., hips, especially knees. And so, does the variability of CrossFit might it actually help from a health point of view or at least structural point of view? And on top of that, you can argue that the body is meant to do different things. It's meant to move in different ways, full range of motion, using all of your muscles, in running, let's say endurance wise, you're using your upper body, but not as much as you would for, let's say, a snatch, for example. So again, just playing devil's advocate, but what do you think about that?
I think they are all very, being very honest, you are right. Everything that you said is right. The only thing that we need to take into perspective that even running, which is the most natural thing for humans to do, which they have been doing since the Stone Age, that they had to run to catch their food and then run not to be eaten by another animal. Even running, which is we were born to run, if you do it with a volume and intensity that you're not prepared or not meant to do, you will injure yourself, So everything that is done in the wrong intensity and volume is bad for you. Even if you play chess for too long, wrong intensity and volume, you hurt yourself because you're probably going to be sad for too long, or you're going to have a eye problem. I don't know. Everything will give you that, Diane. And so yes, if you compare that to athletes, they will have injuries exactly the same as CrossFit athletes does, exactly the same as any high performance athlete will have. The thing that we need to take into perspective as normal people, when I say normal, everyone is normal, right? But when I say normal people, they're people that are not professional athletes. And here's the problem that CrossFitters have. You are a lawyer, you have like 8 to 10 hours sat on a chair reading and working and so on, but you want to be an athlete. So you want to train like an athlete, but you don't have the recovery like an athlete. You don't have the time to sleep like an athlete and to eat as well as an athlete. The physios and the sessions and so on like an athlete, but you want to train like it. And CrossFit, especially gyms and trainers that don't have the experience and the knowledge, they will push you to. And you will add too much tension in your body in too many ways for absolutely no reason. You're not going to live off it. It's not going to bring you money. Yes, it gives you happiness, but you create so many expectations that it adds so much stress because I need to be, I need to get this time, I need to do that. In Hyrox as well, in anything that you create too much expectation for absolutely no reason. And then in a CrossFit gym, it's classic. And I own 2 gyms. I've been working in it for 12 years. You have clients, members, and then they start to do well. And then they think that the class is not enough for them. And then they start doing open gym. And then they start signing up for programs. And then they start to compete. And then they start to get a lot of frustrations and injuries. And they realize that, you know what? I like CrossFit, but this is not for me because I'm not a professional athlete. And, after all these injuries and frustrations and so on, if they don't actually stop CrossFit and move on, they're actually going to go back to classes. And I've seen that over and over and over and over again. And I'm sure probably half of your friends probably gone through that circle. And because of that, there's absolutely no reason for you try to have an athlete lifestyle if you're not an athlete. So you only get the training side of an athlete, but everything else that is the most important, you don't get. So yes, but I think everything is a perspective. So you can run 3-4 times a week and be completely fine without injuries if you warm up properly, if you do the right pacing, the right intervals. The same way you can snatch once a week at the right intensity and volume, you'll be totally fine. You're going to add nothing to your life because you can get the power from maybe just cleans, just saying. But you know what I mean? Like, I think it's more that everything is perspective. I do love CrossFit and I think it's great, but it's more like, what is it that you like about CrossFit? What is it you want from CrossFit? And then I think that's what's your goal in fitness. Me as a professional, that's what I need to know, what your goal is, what your training level is, what you want to get. And that's how I'll decide what is best for you and help you in your journey to have the best experience. So you have fun, so you last longer, so you don't injury, so you can connect with the journey as well. So that would be my, to summarize everything, that's how I would face it, really.
And I love your honesty. And I think it gives the listeners and myself a lot to think about. And we talk so much on a micro level. If we look at a macro level, like if we look at an overview of what's going on right now with the fitness industry, I think it's amazing. There's more and more options for people. There's this whole push for people to better themselves physically and mentally. There's also a link between the two. More and more people are talking about it. Like, I think it's just a win-win situation. I think for
Exactly, yeah.
everyone involved, whether it's you or I as professionals in this industry, or and also you and I and other people as just people who want to be physically healthy, mentally healthy. I think, and we kind of touched on this during our coffee as well. Like, we're so lucky right now in 2024 that we can be having this conversation and be like, oh, I don't want to do that sport, let me do this sport. And it's very much encouraged, right?
Yeah. And you get loads of coaching, you get loads. Unfortunately, the internet does give you a lot of bad stuff as well. And it's really hard for you being like not professional, maybe to judge which one is good and bad, which is the bad side of everything, I guess, or when everything just gets too much exposure. But the accessibility that we have to everything nowadays. So if I was growing up today, like I was talking about, like back then, I didn't have the resources that I needed to maybe follow my career and the knowledge. The same for the trainers that was training me. They were doing the best with what they had, but they just didn't have enough that I needed to go to the next level. If I simply changed position as a footballer, I would have probably made it because I was really good, but I was too small for a defender. But if I played in midfield, defensive midfielder, that would be it. Now looking back, it's very easy for me to do that nowadays, right? Or to come up with that nowadays. But back then, it wasn't like football was changing back then. But again, so today fitness is amazing because again, I think if people say like, oh, what should I do? I think the most important thing is like really find a professional that can help you understand what your goal is, what you enjoy doing, which is very important. What your limitations are and how to progress between where you are with your fitness, what your limitations are, what you like doing, where you want to get. When you get and blend all these things with everything that is available in the market now, oh my God, there's so much you can do. And
Yeah.
I say that because going back to my training, now that I'm not competing anymore and anything like that, I don't need to perform anymore. Before, as a performing athlete, doesn't matter how you look, you need to look whatever, but you need to perform at 100%, and you look as a consequence of your training to perform at 100%, whatever that is. But now I wanted to look good and only be 70% as fit as I look. So that's my goal now, if you ask me. So that's
I
what I'm
love that.
training for. You know
I
what I
love
mean?
that you're, and I agree with this. You have to choose. It's, aesthetics versus performance. You have to choose unless you're genetically gifted. A lot of people think, they see someone who's ripped, they're like, oh, they're super fit, they're super strong. Never judge a book by its cover, ever. I've seen this in competition and vice versa. Like, it's very interesting, and I wish more people talked about how you really have to choose. And I love that you put your goal out there. I hope you get there and get there quick.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, I'm enjoying the process because, like I said, like I came from across a bodybuilding background, so I do enjoy the bodybuilding side, but I do find bodybuilding quite boring. So what I do now, I think it would be interesting for listeners, which is like I do like this hybrid because it is hybrid at the end of the day, right? Strength and conditioning style training, which is like a mix bodybuilding, CrossFit, and conditioning because I do love playing sports, every sport, and I love being outside. So instead of killing myself doing like crazy workouts that add a lot of volume and intensity and tension in my muscles and inflammation in my joints and tendons, what I do now is I break down my 6 days a week like push, pull, and leg twice, right? So 6 days a week. And then on the push day, I do all the pushing, bodybuilding, and CrossFit. So I will bench, I will do everything that bodybuilder would do, but I also do handstand push-ups. I do shoulder presses and like loads of stuff that comes from the CrossFit, ring dips. On a pulling day, I'll do all the bodybuilding stuff. I'll do pull-ups, I'll do muscle ups sometimes, like I'll do loads of the CrossFit. On leg day, I'll do deadlifts, I'll do cleans, I'll do loads of stuff. And I do workout, like CrossFit workout, the 2159s, the cheapers and so on, at least once or twice a week. Matter of fact, today I did a really nasty assault bike and wall ball interval that I hated it and loved it at the same time. It's on my Instagram, by the way. If you look up, you're gonna see it. But then it gives me the chance to I cycle outdoor, like road cycle, once or twice a week in the mountains here, which is beautiful. And then I do 2 running sessions a week, one trail and then one road, like trail in the mountain and the road, by the sea, which is amazing. And I try to swim at least once a week. If I was killing myself into the same old, like CrossFit style workouts and, spending 2 hours in the gym just to get through like a warm up and a snatch session and or whatever that was, I wouldn't get to do these things. And that's for me, because, that's not me anymore. I enjoyed it while I did it. And I believe that what I'm doing now will get me to look good, to be fit enough for life, for what I do. Maybe not fit to compete at a higher level like I used to, but life has changed. Like now, like sometimes I have 1 hour to train. I warm up with the lighter weight on the bench press, and that's my warm up. Back in the days for a CrossFit session, I would need to spend at least 30, 40 minutes, mobilizing, general warm up and then specific warm up and then load up the bar. And then by the time that I got to the first working set, it's 45 minutes in, you know what I mean? So it's just life changing.
And life is changing, goes through waves, again, back to that imagery of waves. And I love that you talked more about what your training's looking like now. And I'd love to fire some quick fire questions to you now. Are you ready?
I'm ready. As ready as I can be.
The first one might be the hardest. And so the first question is, if you had to either cut your hair short or get rid of the mustache, what would you do? You're forced.
Easiest. Get rid of my mustache. It's so painful.
Really?
Oh my God. It's such a pain in the ass. Every day I need to wake up, I need to do it up. When I'm swimming, every time I breathe, the mustache goes into my mouth. If I'm going on the beach, I'll come in with the mustache nice. As I come out from the first dip, it's already all over the place. Look like I'm a homeless. Yeah, mustache 100%. The hair.
All right.
Sometimes I dream of having my hair cut and I wake up sweating. Like it's a nightmare. I don't think I would ever cut my hair. I really want to see myself 100 years old, jacked, because I would jack myself by 50 years old. But with gray hair, tattoos, gray hair, long hair, jacked, taking the grunt from in school and so on. But anyway, mustache, straight on.
Mustache. Okay, got it. Second question. Your 3 daily non-negotiables.
Ooh, coffee, for sure. The day I manage to have 3 coffees is a bonus. I need to wake up early enough for that. So bacon, eggs. If I don't wake up and have my routine, like coffee, obviously, and bacon, eggs, literally, I even get headache. I'm actually addicted to it. My mood would change. And third one will be training. I would say the day when I train, even though I don't want to train, as soon as I train, I feel so much better. So yeah, coffee, bacon, eggs, and training for sure.
Simple man.
Family doesn't count, right? I want to make it clear. Family doesn't count, kids or that. I don't want to sound weird.
All right.
Family obviously is priority and everything, but
yes.
Just so everyone knows.
Third question. If you had to pick between only training upper body or only training lower body, what would you pick?
You would have to be upper body.
I figured.
There's nothing like a bench and a bicep sesh on a Friday, before going out with the boys for a quick drink and before, after kids are in bed. It's gold. Although legs healthy, this is me being me. But if I was have to actually pick, I would pick lower body for health because it's bigger muscles. It would keep me healthy for longer. aesthetically, I would love to just do upper body. Leg days can challenge me sometimes. It's painful.
Yes. Yes, leg days are very painful. All right, last question. You ready?
I'm ready. Bring it.
This one might be the easiest. I don't know. You'll have to tell me. But what's your last meal on earth?
My last. Whoa, that's the hardest because everything I do in life, Diane, is so I can eat. Just so you know
Yes,
that.
ditto.
You know,
Yeah.
everything else is just so the maths, the intake versus out, everything works well. I would say, I don't know if you've seen from my, if how long you've been like following my Instagram, but I'm a massive meat lover. Not to the point to fight vegans and so on. I respect everyone, but I am a meat lover. So a proper barbecue, like on a Sunday afternoon, sunny with a little, like a Corona. There's nothing like it, and every human deserves that once a month at least. Proper barbecue, nice cold beer. It's just human rights, and every man needs it, or at least men for sure. But yeah, a barbecue for sure, which we say churrasco, a
Ah,
Brazilian
yeah, that's your
churrasco,
presidential campaign right there.
right
You're
there.
gonna
There you go.
campaign for this.
Yes, churrasco for everyone.
Yeah. Gus, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you for being honest with your insights. It's given me a lot to think of. I'm sure the listeners will love it too. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the chat. I hope people really does enjoy it.
They will. They will for
Awesome.
sure. Thank you, Gus.
Thank you. Have a great day, gang. Bye bye.